Hi, this is Rich Girard. As you know, our mission here at Girard at Large is to connect local people, places, and things by bringing you news from our own backyard. Did you know that GoffstownToday.com has a similar mission? So when we want to know what's happening in Goffstown, Ware, Dunbarton, or New Boston, we go to GoffstownToday.com.
Hi, this is Bill Wynn, publisher of GoffstownToday.com. If it's happening in Goffstown, Ware, Dunbarton, or New Boston, even in Pinardville, you can find out about it on GoffstownToday.com. If we know about it, you should too.
Welcome to this YouTube video that we were able to put together thanks to our partnership with Bill Wynn at GoffstownToday.com. We hope you enjoy what you're about to see.
We are in studio with Darth Vader. Dan Cloutier. It's easy to mix up the two if you are following local histrionics here in the town of Goffstown. Dan is a member of the Goffstown School Board who's created quite a stir because he's refused to sign the school board's ethics policy. Is that what it is, the ethics policy?
It is called Policy BCA, which has a statement BCA-R. Yes.
You're not an engineer by any chance, are you?
I am not, but I'm very detail-oriented.
All right, so there are a number of things that we hope to speak with School Board Member Cloutier here about today, including, but we'll start with, his refusal to sign the paper. What's the deal?
I don't think it's, but first let me say that, I am here as a personal individual. I am a member of the Goffstown School Board, but in no way am I representing the Goffstown School Board. The policy, there's not a refusal because there's not a requirement. And so if you don't have a requirement to do anything, why is there a refusal? I don't understand.
Okay, but you're the only member of the board that hasn't signed it.
That is correct.
Do you folks take an oath of office when you're sworn in?
We certainly do. In fact, it is in state law that indicates you must take an oath of office or you cannot be an
Now, what's
official.
the oath of office require? I mean, when you take, what is your oath, what are the words of your oath of office?
The oath of office is set forth word for word in the New Hampshire Constitution, Part 2, Article 84.
So is this what you were making reference to when you said, I follow the Constitution, because you're taking the oath of office, which I think inherently implies that you will conduct yourself in an ethical manner?
Not only ethically, but from my perspective, it's follow the rules, the regulations, those things that are legal, those things that are promulgated in state law. Those kind of things would be most important to keep it going.
Okay, so what's the point then, if you all take an oath of office, raise your hand in that whole thing, what's the point of having a separate, what's the point of having I would like you to tip his microphone up.
Okay.
Thank you. What is the point of having this ethics policy if in fact you have an oath of office that covers the bases?
That actually was my question, because every other policy that I've gone through so far, and I've looked at a number of them, we have probably hundreds if not thousands, and I haven't gone through all of them yet. And I think it's important that each one of them have some kind of statutory basis in the RSAs, which is what is done by the legislature, or whether it has some kind of official capacity in the rulemaking processes with the Department of Education. This has neither, and I have checked with both bodies.
Okay, so there's no statutory or regulatory basis for this policy.
That is correct.
Now, the chairman of the school board, Phil Pancoast, has said that this will have a chilling effect on the board's ability to conduct business. Why does he say such a thing?
Oh, I think you would have to ask Chairman Pancoast that.
I would like to. Mr. Chairman, you're welcome to come on the show. Don't be surprised to get a direct invitation. And in doing so, though, he pointed to a controversy that arose over the supposed leak of non-public information. And while he didn't come right out and say it, at least not that I could see in the video that I watched of the meeting, certainly there was an implication there that the only person who hasn't signed the ethics material is the one responsible for the leak. So let's get into what happened there, because I find it incredible that the information he's claiming was non-public was in fact non-public.
The And nothing was done actually at the meeting coming forward with any public disclosed information. This is a slippery slope, and I'm going to have to be careful here, because I don't need this to be exasperated any further than it already is.
Well, let's tell people what happened. There was a non-public session that the Goffstown School Board had to basically discuss negotiations, contracts with various administrators in the district, correct?
I wouldn't call it negotiations, because what happens is the superintendent brings forward the individuals that she would recommend to have a contract and the amount of that contract.
Okay.
And we did a number of those straight out in open session, the way we know that from my understanding, that information was passed out to us. It is now in the hands of a majority of the individuals. In public session, it's public material. After that point,
But you folks did go into non-public session to discuss that material.
to discuss only a piece of the material, which were the administrators.
Right.
And at that point, from my perspective, and this is where it gets kind of fuzzy, where I'm going to have to do a lot of more research. Once you get in there, there's a discussion that happens, and the words that are used by various people to discuss the material is what I infer from the RSA is why we went into non-public, because something we would say and discuss between one another may not be the best thing that you would want to have in a public forum. But the outcome, the vote, what we did with it is a public, most often a public thing, because it can be taken. Certainly interim information such as contract negotiations, what we're going to offer, go from here to there, the deal is not done.
Right.
So once the deal is done, I believe it's public.
Did you come out of non-public session and take a vote to ratify the actions that you took in non-public session?
Yes, we did.
Are you aware, is the chairman of the school board aware, that the moment that a governing body, and I'm speaking as a former mayor's aide, a former alderman, someone who's been involved with this stuff, negotiations, employee personnel matters, et cetera, for 20 years now, is anybody at that school board aware that once you come out of non-public session and you take a vote to ratify what you did on personnel matters involving pay, benefits, contract, wages, all that fun stuff, the moment you take the ratification vote, that is public information.
That is actually the
discussion about whether, the discussion like union negotiations, the discussion behind closed doors about what is and isn't appropriate, what you do and don't want to do, those discussions are rightfully non-public unless it's an individual employee who wants it held in public session, okay? But once you folks say, we're going to offer you this contract at this amount of money, da-da-da-da-da, you're agreed to it, you've had your discussion in non-public session, you bring everybody back in, there's a motion to ratify what was done, more or less is what should be happened, a motion to accept the contract. Once that motion is brought forward, the terms are public, so what is the deal? If
that indeed is the case, this is a non-issue.
Exactly, and unless my review of the minutes and watching what, I don't get it.
It's a quandary, and it's something that I believe that we can all learn from.
Because are these folks aware that certain people out there in the media like me are prone to talk to people about what so and so gets paid and what the benefit package is? You open up a newspaper and you see a printing of everybody's salary when they decide they want to do it. So how can it be that these are non-public personnel matters if we can in fact go obtain them as members of the media?
No information that was discussed at the meeting was ever disclosed.
Right.
The only information that would have been, hey, administrators were subjected to a new contract and everybody got a raise but one.
That's right.
And that's public information.
Well, as the contracts are, and all anyone would have to do, they have to make those contracts, but what, do I have to send another right to renew request to your district asking for this information to make my point?
If that's what it takes for you to make your point, then I guess so.
We are with Dan Cloutier, also known as Darth Vader.
By Rich Girard.
Of the Goffstown School Board. All right, Dan, so what's that you got there in front of you?
You had mentioned something about conflict of interest, and there is a policy
There is, and the reason why I brought that up is because I believe there may be one unfolding before our eyes, and it's the subject of a right-to-know request that I filed with the superintendent, Stacy Buckley. And that has to do with this consultant that the school board seems intent on hiring over the Mountain View Middle School. What are we calling that thing?
SERESC.
No.
The massacre at Mountain View.
Yeah,
that's what I want.
massacre at Mountain
You want
View.
to call it the, we came up with something really good the other day.
Yeah, I know. Anyway,
Wasn't it the melee?
no, that was Memorial. That was Memorial.
We're running out of M's.
I know.
I'm still living in the
Well,
past.
there's clearly a problem there, and I've reviewed minutes of your school board meetings, and you've got a superintendent out there who's soliciting bids. Where is the request for proposals?
I have not seen a request for proposal. What I've
Okay.
seen
Go ahead.
at the school board is basically, Stacy came up with, I was very pleased at looking at a 4-page analysis of questions and synopsis and things that could be done.
I saw that.
And then a request to say, I've got some companies here that might be able to help us to do that. Should I continue to work
Well,
on this and come back to you guys?
But here's my concern. We had Ben Hampton on the show earlier in the week. It was
Yes.
Wednesday morning. And he's the gentleman in your town who has got a pretty incredible resume in this stuff, and has got a team that is got pretty incredible resumes on these things. Willing to step forward, do it for the town for free. And I thought, okay. He asked for a copy of the request for proposal. He got a list of qualifications he was going to be required to have if he were to be considered a bidder. He said that when he got the list he was given, and I have the email, it's all by my blog at Girard at Large. He said that he was given until Wednesday at 4:30 to submit the bid. And then at a later time he was told, well, there are a couple more people who want to bid on this thing, so you have until Friday. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. And then reading your minutes, I've discovered that the superintendent has solicited bids from and been in negotiations with 3 different providers, a national one, a Boston one, and a local one, with various dollar amounts assigned to their bid. And I'm wondering how there can even be a comparison if there isn't a formal request for proposal that's been approved by your school board, posted to the public, with a defined timeline and the criterion for ascertaining which is the one that is the most responsive and cost-effective. And then, of course, in the middle of all this is Diane McCarthy, the vice chairman of your school board, who works for what appears to be the low bidder, if I can use that term, because I believe that's what I read in the minutes of the school board. And even though she sent me an email saying that she's going to recuse herself from the vote, the emails that I've seen go back and forth from various people and the school superintendent and whatnot have got Phil Pancoast as the chairman and her, Diane McCarthy, as the vice chairman, copied on these emails. Now, I'm wondering, even if she's going to recuse herself from the vote, how it is not a violation of the ethics policy in the town of Goffstown, or the school board, the Goffstown School Board, that she's participating in any way in the conversations or being kept up to date on how it's unfolding. It seems to me there should be a complete and total recusal, meaning she's blacked out of any information about this process. I mean, these are the people who are yelling at you about not signing an ethics policy because you think the oath of office, which is in the New Hampshire Constitution, is sufficient?
The way
I don't get this.
it's what I can do is I can read the member conflict of interest, because as a comparison, when we look for our assignments at the beginning of the term, I was asked if I could be part of the GRA negotiation team.
GRA?
Is the Goffstown is it GEA? Sorry, the
Goffstown
Goffstown Education
Is it
Association.
the Teachers Association
It
or
is
the Education Association?
It's the teachers.
Okay, Goffstown Teachers Association.
Yeah, but I don't think it's the GT.
Well, whatever.
Let's put it that way. Forget the acronym, but with it's the contract
And it's
with the
Mountain View
teachers.
Madness, our ever eager intern Steve, who's producing the show. It's Mountain View Madness. We're really good at naming our messes here to keep them all straight at Girard at Large.
We just got to remember them.
The Central Smackdown, the Memorial Melee, the mess at West. Now we've got Mountain View Madness and buffoonery in Bedford. Yeah, we got all. Okay, we got it all down.
Super. And because of my age now, I got to try to get my mind back on what I was talking about. So
They wanted you to be in the negotiations with the
yeah,
Goffstown
and
Teachers
because
Association.
everyone probably knows my wife is a teacher in the district, I thought that would not be an arm's length. It would be too close, because if
No, you can't even vote on the contract.
I wouldn't even be part of the discussion, and what I would do is ask the members if they would even want me to remove myself from the table during that piece of any kind of negotiations or any kind of discussions, because if there was an increase, it's a direct result. I mean, the money comes into our checking account.
You're a direct beneficiary.
I'm a direct beneficiary.
So you say you refused the request to be on the negotiating team because your wife is a teacher. Well, frankly, that's smart. I mean, there are aldermen in the city of Manchester who will be voting on contracts that affect members of their family.
Right, and even though I believe I can be
And
very...
I don't think that's right.
That's why that we have here, because if there's an appearance, you shouldn't be part of it, and I think there's an appearance, and I think there's enough teachers out there that any benefit derived wouldn't be that much personally, because I have the ability to separate it, but that's not the point. No, just me, it has to go for everybody, and so that's where I would recuse myself.
And so we've got this ongoing. Now, I don't know if you've had a chance to take a look into it, but I'll tell you, my email has been overwhelmed with communications from people at that building, at Mountain View. Teachers that have submitted their resignations, teachers that are clearly being, in my never to be humble opinion, harassed. We had Susan Hood on the show, and her story was just amazing. Does it bother you as a school board member to know that the principal of that school is keeping separate files on members of the staff and putting material in there that is not in their actual official personnel record?
This is the first I've heard that.
Susan Hood told us that on the show.
I must have missed it, and if that were the case, I would expect that the superintendent would be
And by the way,
taking a peek at that.
I've had other teachers come forward and say the same thing. Now, I'm trying to figure out how to get some of the information I have at my fingertips out without divulging any confidences. But you have a principal in there that apparently is keeping an entirely separate file on each member, on certain members of the staff, and leaving stuff out of their official personnel file.
If true, that is disturbing to me.
By the way,
as a-
why does Goffstown School Board need a consultant to go and try to fix what's wrong at the middle school? It seems to me, from what I've been able to determine, that problems started to arise with the change in administration over there.
And that is part of what our superintendent is trying to find out, is where and why we can't do it for something cheaper. It's something we'll probably continue to discuss on Monday.
Well, we're almost out of time. Let me push on that though.
Okay.
Shouldn't your superintendent be able to figure it out on her own? I mean, well, how many schools do you actually have in this district that it's this great big mystery that she doesn't know what's going on or can't solve it herself?
It's an interesting question, and we should be able to have that information. I, as a board member, would like to get that information from the superintendent.
Dan, thanks for joining us here this morning on Girard at Large. And by the way, if I were you, I would use this as a teachable opportunity, and I would take the oath of office that the New Hampshire Constitution requires you to submit to as an elected official, and I would publish that somewhere. I would suggest my blog and say to the people of Goffstown who elected you that this is why you say the Constitution is what you're following, so that you can educate us all and put this